Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach and I've been doing some work over the weekend on Dubsharp and also Spackle. So I wanted to go through some of the changes I've been doing and actually do one more change this morning. So without further ado, again, it's the morning. The drink of choice is coffee. So Dubsharp, I've just been cleaning a whole bunch of stuff up. It's not that, I'm not going to go through every single one of these things that I put in this 0.2.0 milestone, but there are a couple things I want to cover here that I thought were kind of interesting. Let's see. Oh, where should we start? Word output. Oh yeah, that one we don't need to cover. Add code analysis, all projects. I've been doing this more. This is Spackle, so let me bring up Dubsharp and another one. So what I've been starting to do is using that directory build props file everywhere. And if I go up to my solution items here, I'm throwing things in here that I want in every project in a solution. Starting to like this more and more. So it makes it easy to say, yes, we're adding code analysis in, or no, we're not. And now editor config is the place that you put in all your severities, configuration of rules and things like that. So kind of nice. I like that. Making things somewhat easier to work with. Error with missing semicolon. What was that one about? Yeah, I forgot how I fixed this, but there was some weird thing that if I didn't have a semicolon, it was actually a bug. I fixed that one. This one I actually like. Let me actually show you this. If I run it, because I know, it's one of the many things I like about recording these videos is as I'm editing them, I'm just sometimes watching what I'm doing and what I'm coding and the code that I wrote. And I'll go, hey, wait a minute. What about this? What about that? And the one thing I notice is what happens if I would do something like one defer if n of 2 is greater than 2, print hi. Now, n of 2 requires you to pass in a line number that exists. Okay. So what I was thinking is, could I catch that? So if I say run, you'll notice now it'll say the line number 2 does not exist. Okay. But if I say defer n of 2 plus 3 minus 5 is greater than 2, print hi. And now if I say run, now we still get the error, okay? Giving key 0. So only works if you put in a literal number, okay? If you put in, I think I catch this, if you put in a negative number, it's going to tell you that's an invalid number. I'm not sure. Minus 2, greater than 2, print hi. Nope. I don't catch that either. Which, the thing is, there's a unary expression and then a literal. I should probably handle that as well. Because that's a simple one. To say if you have a unary and a literal together, then handle that as well. So I'm going to actually make a note of that. And by making a note of that, here are my notes, because these are the things I wanted to talk about today. I do this, one, defer, and okay, and that is actually referring to 16. Refer to. Okay, cool. See, fun to talk about these things. Fun. But I put in code to essentially Let's see if I can find where I did this. I could, well, you know what? Yeah, I could just look at, we find the line number check during the parsing phase. So what I do is during the binding of the compilation unit, and I think I actually ended up changing the binder class so that on construction it does that. But in it, there's things again that I got to clean up here, there, and everywhere. But what I do is every time you bind a line statement, it captures if it really found a literal expression and captures that number. Okay. This also prevents negative numbers because if there was a unary there, it wouldn't work. But we then, as we parse line statements, we capture that if you, what do we put in here? Line numbers. We change the evaluate. So let's check this one. Yeah, it was funny because that actually ended up catching this error because the update line thing also has that catch in here now. So I used to have it as 2, but now it tells you, no, you needed 1 there. I was getting an error. But we check to see if you're calling like exists or n, and then we also have to do the same thing in, there's one other function. I thought I did it in one other place. I had to have. And I'm just not seeing it here. That's okay. It's early, but I basically gather all the line numbers, and then as you're calling them, like, no, not there. Well, here I'm definitely doing it. Okay, so we basically capture the place that you're calling that you're passing in the argument and the line number, and if it doesn't exist, then we end up calling reporting a diagnostic. So that was kind of a fun one to do. I liked that one. All right, did I go? There we go. So that was a small one to add, and I can do that as well. Repeated line numbers. So yeah, I also catch this now because of the fact that I'm catching all the line numbers. As soon as you issue one, if you put in another one that was giving an error, now it will actually just tell you, don't do that. So if I say 1 print hi, 1 print hi, run, it'll tell you when you've already used it. So, and you can't use negative numbers. That's actually a rule. So that doesn't matter. And code analysis talked about that. File name is lost in REPL. That I now changed it so you can say run file. And I think it's 9 bottles. Yeah. So now what it does is it, instead of loading it and running it, I just say run it, and it runs the file. And if you have a error in the file, it will actually now flag it and tell you, hey, you did something wrong. With the file name in there. That was important. Okay. Consider removing exists. I haven't done that. I decided not to do it. Maybe at some point I will revisit that. But I keep going back and forth on this one because it should definitely be doable, but it feels bad to me. So check for handling multiple defers. I already realized I was doing that right. It ends up creating some interesting code with the... Hold on. We'll see if my cat makes an appearance. Come here. Come on, Tweaky. Come on. Where are you? I can feel you around my legs. Come on, Tweaky. Come here. Come on. There you go. See? Yeah. You wanted attention. You just want to show up on my video, don't you? Alright, I'll try to keep demoing things with a cat in my leg. Alright, sit down. There you go. There you go. Sit down. There you go. You happy now? Yeah? Oh, he's purring. He's purring up a storm, aren't you? Yes, you are. You're purring up a storm, buddy. Yeah. He'll eventually sit here. He'll sit here, and then he'll eventually just, he'll leave. But, he's a cat. He wants his attention, and then when he's done getting attention, he'll leave. So we check for multiple defers. It was interesting because the IL that's generated in some cases actually ends up making it look like it's a do while. That's how IL Spy will try to interpret it. So that's kind of funny. But this potential issue with chosen line, this was a very interesting one because I thought that if you would run this line first, then it didn't matter if you tried to update it. So wouldn't it be possible to actually run this line and run this? Now I'm sitting here too going, how would this happen if... Well, so here's the thing. I think what's happening is when you put a line in, you can resurrect it, for lack of a better term. Okay, you can make it a zombie. So if you ran this line first, then effectively this line has no count, and this still has 1 count. So this can't be picked because there's no instances of it. But then then the only thing you can run is this. That adds 2 copies of line 1. So now suddenly this exists twice, and you print it twice. Okay? If you ran this one first, and then this one, that would again make 2 more instances of it. You could potentially print this twice, or you could come in here and have that run and knock one of those off, and it would get printed only 1 more time. But the thing I wasn't understanding is you can basically bring a line back to life, so to speak. Okay. My goodness, somebody desperately needs attention down here. This little kitty. So happy now, aren't you? Sorry. I'm a cat lover. I love cats. They're so good. There was one time, though, there's been one cat in my life that absolutely hated me. When I was living in Milwaukee, and this was like in 1995 or 6, I was working with a singer, and I had to pick up something at her apartment. I can't remember why, but she had a cat. I thought, oh, cool. I love cats. So walked in there, and I can't remember if this was, I don't remember how long we actually worked together. If it was past when it was past when I got married, because we did play a couple shows after I got married. And the reason I mention that is because we got a cat, my wife and I. And so maybe the scent, there he goes, maybe the scent of my cat is what the other cat was picking up. I don't know. But I walked in to her apartment, and I saw the cat, and oh, did it not like me at all. It hated me. It hissed. It started going after my legs, and I was shocked because I've never seen a cat act that aggressively towards me. Usually they're fine with me. And she was kind of surprised too, so she had to take the cat and throw him into her bedroom or something and shut the door. She was like, I've never seen that happen before. I don't know what triggered the cat, but wow, that was a bad one. There was one other time where it was kind of sad. One of my wife's friends from high school, she had a cat, and she was a little kitten, and it was called Finchley. And we went over to visit her and the cat. And it was just a little kitten at the time, probably 4 or 6 months old or whatever, if that. And oh, was he friendly. Like I picked him up and I held him and it was purring. I started petting him and just purrs for, I don't know how long, just sat on me. Very friendly. Well then, we hadn't gone over there for a while, but like 6 months later or whatever, we go back and visit. And now that cat was just not happy with any visitors. Wouldn't come over, very mean to people. It didn't attack you, but it was like, do not touch me. I was like, what did I do? So, but I'm a cat person. Love cats. Anyway, where am I? So yeah, this one, basically, I realized that I thought you could actually take a line away, but the problem is that when I changed the code to fix it, you can see here that I fixed it, but now the Fibonacci thing didn't work. So I looked up some other implementations, and I found one that basically did not take the line away. So I realized, okay, well, maybe the rule is that if you reference a line that was part of the original set, it's not in play unless there's actually lines that have been added to it. So I changed my implementation back to the way it was, and then I just went, okay, I guess that's the way it works, because then the 2 sample projects I found worked again. So that's all dub sharp stuff. Let's go to Spackle. I'm finding out that my Spackle library is getting thinner and thinner, and that's fine, because as time goes on, it's meant to, just be little things, that utilities I find here and there, and I add them into this library, and some of them have been very useful. But like this random object generator thing, I'm probably going to get rid of. I just have to find, I know there's some projects out there that do good randomization of data, and that would be 41. Are you kidding me? Well, some of those are mine. So, okay, fine, I use those. But what repositories use this other than mine? Training, so really? Wow, I didn't realize that there were that many. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Huh. Okay. Book sources, memleaks? What the heck? Whatever. Surprise, I didn't realize that it was actually... Like, is Rocks even being used by that many? Yeah, there's not even a used by. So, okay, whatever. Maybe I shouldn't remove those. I decided to obsolete something. I forgot what it was. Well, just go look at the code, Jason. Go look up... obsolete. So this check parameter for null I've obsoleted, because it's just easier to say use is checks in code. I mean, that's easier to do, and I think it's also for check and then is null. I'm like, just get rid of those. Those are going to be obsoleted. The rest of the stuff I've decided to keep then for now. And that includes range. So I had my own range type that I built in. And I'm not sure why I made it a sealed class. Like, why didn't I make it a read-only... Well, I couldn't have made it a read-only struct when I first wrote this. This was a long time ago. But I've had my own for a while. And now there's a range type in .NET proper. Okay, so part of the thing I was debating in my head is, should I get rid of this or not? And I've decided to keep it in for now, because I think it, there's no reason to take it away. It does allow you to do a range on any T as long as it is comparable to T. So you can, you have more flexibility than the range type that currently exists, which can only take an int. And I love this, because I found out that if you try to make a range with negative numbers, you actually get a runtime error. Why don't they make an analyzer to tell you that you can pass in a negative number to the range? I don't know, but that's the way it is. And also I'm like, well, then why didn't you just make them unsigned integers? There's this weird thing that I've never quite understood with .NET is it considers unsigned data types to not be part of what they called the common, whether the CLS or common language system, common type system CTS. There was some like level that stated that that it was not common language system compliant or something. I don't know. I can't remember. But unsigned integers weren't those. But to me, that describes things perfectly, like an age value. You can't have a negative age. It's just when you're born, that's when you start at 0. And so you have to use an int, but then you have to put a check to make sure it's less than 0, and then you throw an exception. Of course, nobody's ever going to get to 2 billion years old, but you get my point. If you meant for it to never take a integer, a negative value, then why didn't you make it an unsigned int? But then the problem is that if you start using it in arrays and indices and everywhere else, you start running into all these problems because int is used everywhere, and you can't just cast an uint to an int. And if they ever redid .NET, which is never going to happen, but if they did, I would loudly yell to not do that. But anyway, it doesn't really matter other than you can pass in different values, shorts and whatever. So I thought, well, maybe keep it as what it is if people are using it. But then what I've done is I've started to create extension types or extension methods for the actual new range type that map to what I've been creating. And I also added in the partition extension method. I'm not going to do that for the range type. I just don't really have a desire to add anything to it. But the one thing I didn't do last night is union, because we do have a union method here, which is basically, it's this idea that if you have any intersection between the two ranges, then take like if you did 1 to 5 and 3 to 7, you'd end up with 1 to 7, okay? Which is kind of weird because it's, if you take a look at math and sets and unions, it's either one of the values and one or the other. But if you had 1 to 3 and 5 to 7, well, the union of those ranges, there's nothing in between those two. You don't have any hook between the two. From a set theory perspective, yes, it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. But I decided last night, after looking some things up, to say that let's actually take the range union here. And that's what I'm going to work on this morning. So a lot of talk to get to a point here. So let's come into here. I'm going to grab this again, and some of this will go away. So we're going to say public static range, but it can be null because you might not get a result. This range, this, and then it was target, right? Yeah, range target. Okay, and then one thing I did do here is on the intersect is that I do like what I call two ascending. So if you did 5.3, it's going to change it to 3.5. And it just makes it easier for me to do all the stuff I need to do. Okay, so we're going to say here, that's your possible value. That's what I did up here, right? Oh no, I just returned null. Okay. And then we'll say here, null. Return, and we'll get to that in a moment. We'll say this. So now we just do our substitutions. If this contains, no, not this, current range, and let's change all these here. So this, 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 and then target range is anywhere we say target, 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 target. And then I do like that you can get away with doing this kind of stuff. I like that for some reason. All right, so if I come back up here, we have to do the start value. Index doesn't have only on the values. Okay, that's right. which is interesting because the index is convertible to a int. So I think you don't even need to do this, which is a minor thing, but anyway, there we go. And that's pretty much it. And now I come to my range tests, and anywhere where I do a union test, I'm going to essentially just copy it into the tests I'm using for the extension methods. Okay. I've also decided to, well, I put in a thing to change this to in unit. I've been kind of a person that says, don't change your testing framework just because you don't like it. But that's when I go onto projects, you know. Then I'm like, hey, if they're using testing framework A and you like testing framework B, don't just change it because you don't like the what it is. So why are you complaining? I thought I figured out how to do that on these other ones. Oh, you still have to say value. That's right. Okay. Because it is a range type. That is the actual value, and then that's the star. Okay. Yeah, gives us a null one. Anyway, so I've said that to people many times, but I came back in this project and I realized I was using XUnit, and it's not my favorite. I use NUnit as my default, and I kind of went, this feels like just a slight amount of friction that I really don't care for. But maybe it's best if I keep this one here so that I at least understand the little idiosyncrasies that exist between the two, for lack of a better term. One thing I do need to do is change all my tests so that it's not creating an instance of it. You can just use static methods, and that's perfectly fine. So let's put those in there, and then I'm not even sure if this is covering like all the cases, so to speak, but that's fine. And there's one thing I like about the range syntax is it's whoops, I went way too far. Is that it's much more compact, and I do like that. Okay, that will give that. It should be getting near the end, right? Oh, that's got to be a static. And then we don't need this because there's no chance for you to do that because the range type now is a struct, so it'll always have a value. And this would be a null because there's no commonality. And then that has to be a static. And then let's change that. Okay. Run all the tests. And let's see where this ends up. Unexpected error. Well, that's a neat one. 7 failed. Object must be of... Oh, well, I was wrong about that. Okay, you do need those to be... because you're comparing to, and it's just an object. It doesn't know what... Okay, so it's not going to yell at you like that. The value of unit tests come barreling through again, don't they? Run them again, and they all pass. And look, we're right at the time, so that is nice. So this change, if I look at my issues here, milestones, pretty much everything is in here. Like potential name, that one I can close out because there is going to be no potential name collision. If you really want to use the range type explicitly in .NET and my range type, you could just like do a using sRange is equal to spackle dot range, and then you could handle the name collision that way. Update the NuGet package. What was that? Yeah, I should do some of that. I'll look into that. I just did that. Next, the big integer. That's another one I got to do. But I'm not going to do that right now. And then change the testing framework to unit. I don't know. Maybe I'll just leave that as is. So nothing got deleted though. So I don't think I really need to change it to 10 because that's like bug fix, not bug fixes. That's if you have breaking changes. So I don't have any just yet. Even though obsolete being false, that's a warning. I would see it as an error, but yeah, once that obsolete, I think it's set to true. Like, what is the rule for a bug fix? That would actually cause, well, that would cause an error. So then that's when we flip it to true, and then the type in 11 would actually go away. So anyway, I am done. Day job starts, and actually build is on today. I'll leave on that note. When I'm recording this, build is a now 2-day event, 48 hours straight, all online, because again of COVID-19, they decided to make the event an online event, and they just announced last week that it's essentially free. Not essentially, it is free. You just have to sign up for it. So I went to the first build, and that's when they were announcing the preview of Windows 8, and it was a very dark time to me because I felt like Microsoft there were directions that they had gone in the past that I did not agree with. And this one was, oh my God, what are you doing? I was like, am I seeing truly the beginning of the end of this company because of what I thought was a really bad mistake? Thankfully, they not just righted the ship, but they put it in a completely different direction. And they, just like any other company, they make mistakes. But I think where they are now compared to back with that, they're in a much better position. But I've never gone to build since then. Just one, it's hard to get in. You have to be like online, ready to buy your front row ticket, so to speak. And it's not cheap. It's expensive to go to it. And to me, it's like, well, why spend all the money if they're going to put all the content online within a day anyway? Yes, you get to talk to people, and that's one of the things that you need to get the value out of is to have those conversations with Microsoft and other vendors and other people you meet there. But part of me was like, that's hard to justify the cost. So this year with it being online, what they did is that I guess they're having nonstop conversations throughout 48 hours. Of course, I'm not going to stay up for 48 hours and watching all these, but we'll see if there's any in there that are, I don't even know if they posted the schedule yet. I don't even know if that's, because I checked and I'm like, I don't see one. So we'll have to, we'll have to see what the schedule is and if there's anything interesting throughout the day that they'll announce. But yeah, it'll be, my final thought is with conferences is with COVID-19 and with the fact that pretty much conferences are done for, I don't want to say the whole year because I speak at VS Live and I really want those to go on. But at this point, Redmond is still on, but I would imagine there's conversations about it either being canceled or going online. But then they have San Diego, Philadelphia, and Orlando the rest of the year. And part of me has wondered, just like with every conference organizer, if they don't have anything, especially conferences that are basically people's day jobs, what happens? And as much as it's fun to do these online presentations, I've done one for South Dakota user group. I'm going to do one this week for Dallas, and then a week or two from now, I'm going to do one for Adelaide in Australia. That's going to be a fun time. I got to get up at like 3:30 one morning to do it. But that's fun in a way because I get to do a talk for a place that would literally have to travel across the world to a great place, Australia. But for a user group, that'd be hard to justify all the cost, to say the least. So that's fun. I mean, that you get that opportunity, but the conference itself, being able to be around other people, see other people talk, meet other people, I have to admit that, I just said what I said about Build, but there is, I think, a lot of value in having those face-to-face conversations. You just don't get that with something online. So I don't want to say I'm a curmudgeon, but I don't see this, just getting rid of in-person conferences. I hope at some point we can figure out how to live where we can start being around each other again and have these opportunities. So, because it's hard to do a presentation where you can't see everybody, and their cameras aren't on, and I get why, but everybody's got their mics muted. And I don't try to be a comedian, but if I try to say something that I think is a little funny, it's just nice to feel the interaction from the room. And in fact, when I'm in a room that's dead and nobody's like interacting with me or trying to, follow along or whatever, it gets to be a little disheartening. But that's still a good thing. Being in a room full of people is what I like to do when I do presentations. So, yeah, well, hopefully, I mean, if when I think about it too, I'm talking about, well, I don't get to go to conferences, and we're at this point nearing 70,000 people dead in the United States, hundreds of thousands of people dead in the world. I mean, all I need to do is just think of that and go, yeah, I'll not just literally live, I'll figuratively live. I mean, things will move on, we'll adapt. I still have my life. So that there's definitely that to be thankful for. So it puts it into perspective rather quickly. So with all that said, I am now done. So thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.